Hello and welcome to this week's look at stunts and action on film and television. How are you? If you are a fan of James Bond, you will know that October 14th is the birthday of the late Roger Moore. Sir Roger Moore, born 14th October 1927, and was for many the perfect James Bond. He was the perfect everything, really. As you can obviously appreciate, I'm a huge fan of his. Always was, ever since I saw Escape to Athena, which was the first movie I saw him in. Reruns of the television series The Saint, The Persuaders particularly, which I thought were absolutely spectacular. His 7 outings as James Bond from 73 to 85 and everything else he did in between. The Wild Geese, The Sea Wolves, North Sea Hijack, The Naked Face, if you've never seen it. It's a Sidney Sheldon book and it's really rather good, directed by Brian Forbes. There's a number of things that I've seen him in over the years which I've just thought, do you know what, this is very good. I don't care what anybody else thinks. I'm enjoying this because he's in it. And that's what this is. I also think that he made an exceptionally good Bond because he'd done a great deal of television. The Saint and the Persuaders, particularly the Alaskans, another television series that he did. Ivanhoe, shows of that nature back in the 50s. But also, he was a very good editor, and he was a very good director. And he directs a great many episodes of The Saint, for instance, and The Persuaders. So he is fully aware of where a scene is going, the pace of a scene, the way in which action determines where this scene is going. Is it better for the camera to be here or over there for this particular piece of action? And I think that his particular style of being Bond was one that really laid the groundwork for a number of other Bonds. You wouldn't have the Pierce Brosnan Bond, for instance, if you didn't have Roger. Pierce has taken elements of Connery from a physicality point of view, but he's taken that humour package and given it a sort of version 2.1. But it's very, very clearly Roger Moore. And I think that's huge. The combination of the action and the humour. And Roger tends to do in his fights what he used to do with dialogue, which was to say to the audience, I'm going to throw this punch in a minute, and then do a bit more fight and go, look, here it comes, by the way, and then deliver it the way that he would do exactly the same thing with the dialogue. He'd be talking, he'd have his piece of dialogue, and then he'd turn to the camera and go, there's going to be a funny line in a minute, you just watch. And then he'd carry on with the dialogue, and then the funny line would turn up, and you were prepared for it. And I think that was another major factor in his charm and his wonderful casting as Bond. What I wanted to do here is to, just have a little sort of a celebration of that from a couple of bits and pieces that I've seen along the way, which I thought would be quite entertaining to look at and maybe discuss. I've got clips from The Saint and The Persuaders and a couple of bits and pieces from Bond, and it's only really to explore some of the ways in which Roger throws his punches. I'm a huge fan of Roger as an action hero. When he is in a fight, he really knows how to throw a punch. Certainly, I think George Lazenby is a wonderful exponent of the big right hand, and that Roger definitely, knows his way around a fight routine, and also knows how to work with his doubles. Where you get those actors who say, I do all my own stunts. I do all of my own stunts. Everything you see on there, that whole thing that we do, that's me. Yeah, I work with the stunt guys, obviously, but when it comes to the take, it's always me. Roger was never one for making that type of statement. Never. He would lie about it. He would laugh about it. He would say, oh yeah, I do my own stunts. I also do my own lying, I only use the stuntmen for the love scenes, he would say, and stuff like that. But he knew that if it meant he would have to be stepping, onto a box that was 3 feet off the ground, he's going to get a stuntman to do it for him, because it's not his job. He's there to look chiseled and gorgeous and deliver the lines, and then when it comes to the big action, the punch-ups he can do, and this is why we're doing this. He's very good with action. Look at some of these scenes that we're going to have a look at, and you'll see that his physicality is not an issue. But he knows that if he starts doing stuff in a scene as an actor, and doing stuff that really should be done by the stunt professional, first he's doing somebody out of a job, which Roger would never do. Never in a month of Sundays would Roger do that. And secondly, there's no point, because he's not going to do it as well, because he would be worried for his own safety. Regardless of regardless of the coordinator going, don't worry, you're tied on here, you're all safe, there's no issues, don't worry about it. He would go, I got issues. I don't need to do this. So those moments when you see Roger's Bond doing stuff that's remarkably exciting, on top of the plane and Octopussy, for instance, those studio shots of him on top of the fuselage of a plane in the studio with the wind blowing and the back projection going by, he's 2 feet off the ground? The height of the fuselage, whatever that is, but it's flat on the ground, right? So he's never going to fall off the damn thing in a month of Sundays. He knows that, but anything else, he doesn't need to do it. In this little compilation we're going to have a look at, there's a couple of little bits and pieces where even simple things like running he didn't need to do, either because he wasn't there at the time, or, probably more importantly, I don't need to do it. And therefore he brings in his two major stuntmen throughout the era of the 60s and the 70s, which would be Les Crawford and Martin Grace. Although Rocky Taylor did a great deal of doubling for him in those early days on The Saint. But we'll have a little look at these, and I hope sincerely that you will be raising a glass to the good man on October the 14th and enjoying a slice of pork pie. He was partial to a slice of pork pie. I always have pork pie and Bucks Fizz on October the 14th. I make it a point of doing so just to have a customary nod to the man upstairs to say thank you for everything that you've given me over the years. And anyway, let's have a look at this clip and we'll come back to you afterwards. Here's a good example from The Persuaders. There's always many great examples from The Persuaders, but we look at this and we use it as a template for what goes before. Here's the actor. We're talking about doubling and how good doubles are and how maybe not so good doubles were in certain cases. There's the actor, you've seen him run. The actor then decides to bob out of sight down the ladder and, oh, well, that's not him. In point of fact, that's stuntman Rocky Taylor, who is now doubling the guy and being beaten within an inch of his life. Ultimately, there's the actor for just a brief moment, gets thrown against the railing, long shots, and then in the final moment is thrown over the balcony and there goes dear Rocky over the top. Now, in a similar vein, here's another example of a double and Roger coming in for fight. The cut down to the feet, that cuts now to the double. Watch some of Roger's punches here. Big punches. Wide punches. Oh, he's reacted to that one rather well. Bang! 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 Holding the head prior to doing that. And here is a great example of a thing called the two-man switch, which you do live. Tony Curtis is fighting this guy. Bang! Hits him there. Goes behind the wardrobe. And out comes Rocky. There we go. Look, it's really simple. It's in camera. And it's beautifully done. Now, from a fight perspective, as we looked at some of those moments there, Roger is very capable of dealing with a fight scenario. He's got a great right hand. Here, he's also very good with timing, as we understand. Great comedic timing. Little nod. Yeah, whatever. And then, bang, the payoff. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Roger's the only guy that could do that. The remaining part of this, there was talk, of course, that, well, he wasn't very keen on running. Well, that's him running. He's very clearly running there. The whole closing the door and driving off. Oh, dear. He's running there as well, right? He's got to run. That's the way he runs. But for the longer run, they then go back to using stuntman Les Crawford. This is Les. This is Les doing the long shot run. It's a very different running style completely. Now that was Man with the Golden Gun. He also has moments where he's quite happy to be himself. Here is the Cannonball Run.
Step back, my dear. I must warn you, I'm Roger Moore. Roger Moore.
Love that. Now, another example of Roger doing just enough and leaving the rest to Martin Grace. Sees Jaws running away. Roger, Martin then starts to run over. Runs to the tree, hides behind the tree, looks out from the tree, and it's Roger again in the edit. So it's really simple. And the Saint is where it all started for him, for this close combat stuff. Some of the editing, not terribly... Look, he's miles away there. There's no possible contact. And here, probably, camera angles slightly in the wrong place. But nonetheless, these are good punches. Big right hands. Always right hands. Tap, whack. Miles away from that as well. Here's another good one. Look at the fist. The fist is really... It's like a... No, it's like almost an open fist, and then he hits him with the knuckles across the front of the fingers. It's very interesting. Developed a very interesting style, but that was the kind of stuff that Roger used to do. This was the hand on the face. You're going to measure this punch to perfection. And I'm going to measure it by doing that, These little moments where... The rabbit punch. He was very keen on the rabbit punch as well. There and behind the window. Ooh, have that. And this is Terry York in an episode. Stuntman Terry York. And you've got to go to rabbit punch here. Bang, have that. Lovely. There you go. That is Roger doing his thing. I must warn you. I'm Roger Moore. Who? Roger Moore. Whack. Love that. I love the idea that he was allowed to don the tuxedo and play, because he wasn't playing Bond, and this often bothered me. There was discussions on various websites and things about, well, hang on, he's playing Bond. He's not allowed to wear the tuxedo, is he? Is he allowed to wear the tuxedo? I mean, that's the costume. He's not playing Bond. He's playing Roger Moore. And that's where the loophole was, so he was okay to do that. And his addition to the Cannonball Run was, well, it's just liquid gold, wasn't it? So I hope you enjoyed that. I sincerely hope that on the morning of October the 14th, you will be raising a glass of something bubbly. Bucks Fizz is my particular choice on that morning. I like to watch a Roger movie if I can at some point during the course of the day, or indeed an interview with him. There's a number of good interviews. Dick Cavett, if you are not familiar with Dick Cavett, please check Dick Cavett out. A wonderful talk show host from America in the 1970s, did a number of shows over there and over here. Interviews Roger around the time he's doing The Persuaders, probably 71, maybe early 72, something like that. Over here, some good stuff, and he's feeling Roger's very loose and very at ease with Dick Cavett on the show, so that's nice to catch hold of that as well. So yes, whatever you're doing on October the 14th, just remember Rog, please, if you will, and say a little thank you to him. He's been a huge influence to me throughout my life, regardless of what I've been doing. I wouldn't really have an interest in sartorial clothing if it wasn't for Roger. I wouldn't have worn a suit. I'd wear a blazer at school, I remember. But depending on what Roger was wearing in any particular TV show or film that I just watched was how my tie was the following day. Or I seem to remember adding a waistcoat to it at some point. I was a proper dandy for about a term. That was soon beaten out of me by fourth formers, as it turns out. Yes, so whatever you're doing, please raise a glass to the man upstairs. Thank you very much for giving us 12 years of your life as James Bond and everything else that he's done, not only as a fabulous actor, comedian, and but also as a humanitarian, and the extraordinary work that he did with UNICEF right up until his death. Until next time, I will bid you a fond adieu, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.